This is the brand new AC50B power station from Bluetti, and today I'm going to run through its performance and test the little hack that is supposed to enhance the output if it actually works or fails flat. But before we do that, I want to take a moment and look at the fit and finish of this unit. When the boxes with the solar panels and the power station arrived, of course I ripped them open like a kid at Christmas. It quickly became apparent that this is not a cheap little plastic toy. You know what I mean. I pulled the 120 watt solar panel out first and immediately noticed that the material is plush in quality and the connection cables are tucked away for storage in this little pocket. The power station itself has great fit and finish. It's a nice little compact size and weighs in at under 15 pounds. It just feels really solid. Now, mentioning the size, I've used so many different power stations from a couple hundred watts up to 7,000 watt generators, and boy, having all that power to run simply whatever you want for a really long time is really nice, but bigger can be a big negative as well. I had a beautiful solar generator recently and I kept it charged up and ready to rock, and sure enough, we had a huge lightning storm that knocked out the power. I was actually kind of excited to be able to pull the bad boy out and power up the entire house, but I nearly ended up in a hospital with it pulled back after trying to carry it up from the basement. So there's a sweet spot between size and weight and what you really need to power, and I think the AC50B is a really good intermediate model, especially with that hack we're going to talk about shortly. Before we get to that though, Bluetti did send this to me for test, but declined to pay or sponsor this video. They don't get you to approve or view anything in this video ahead of time, and they're seeing it for the first time now, same as you, and since it's not sponsored, I can even do this. So there you go. Anyway, the specs. The kit I have here is a bundle with the 120 watt foldable solar panel and the monocrystalline 23.4 high efficiency solar cells, which can give you good efficiency even in bad weather. It can charge the power station to 80% in around 4 hours. It has these built-in little kickstands that are pretty handy, keeps it at the proper angle as well, and it's pretty light, so it's easy to carry and transport. And of course, we're talking about a power station here, so one of the most important things is what is under the hood. And the AC50B has a Life PO4 battery. We've talked about that with other power stations. And this is one of the safest due to their chemical and thermal stability, and they also have a lower risk of catching fire or exploding than some other types. It has a capacity of 448 watt hours and 700 watts, and you're going to want to keep an eye on those numbers. They also hack this with the 1,000 watt lift, which is impressive, which we'll show in our testing in a little bit coming up. And this has a longevity of 3,000 life cycles to 80% of the original capacity. It has 2 AC outlets, 2 USB-C ports at 65 watts, 1 USB-A at 15 watts, and a cigarette lighter port at 140 watts, power some other accessories. Whew, it is hot out here, man. It is hot out here. Whew. There's 2 inputs. 1 solar charger input up to 200 watts and 1 AC input for charging up to 580 watts, which gets us a recharge to 80% in 45 minutes only and 100% in 70 minutes. And there's a car charger port that can charge it as well through the solar port in just under 5 hours, or 200 watt solar panel in about 2.7 hours. And a nice feature that this has is it has pass-through charging, meaning it is a UPS as well, so the power station can be plugged in and charging. And if the input power drops, it will switch over within 20 milliseconds and continue supplying power to your connected devices. So with that, let's test a few of these things instead of talking about it, shall we? So turning on the unit, you can see that the display is really nice and bright and well laid out. The current charge of the power supply is in the center. The input power is on the left, output power on the right, and below that it does have a timer telling you how much time is left given the current output wattage. So let's plug in a few of these devices just so we can make sure that they charge and do what they're supposed to do. And this is a DJI Air 3 that I had out earlier this morning, and I ran the power down a little bit. So we'll go ahead and plug that in the DC port here and we'll see how that charges. I also have the tablet that I was using a little bit earlier. Plug that in and give that a charge. So with those 2 plugged in, we're sitting at about 67 watts output, and it's just not even blinking at all. Let's bump it up a little bit and try some of the AC. And to do the AC, I did plug in a watt meter here, and that's so that we can really verify the wattage going up, because that's going to be really important for the lift test that we're talking about here in a little bit. And I'm using incandescent light bulbs so that I can get a couple hundred watts and vary these a little bit just to see what the AC output looks like. And that should be a couple hundred watts, and indeed we see that it says that it's 195 watts. And down below here it shows 1.1 hours at this current wattage will be able to hold up this couple hundred watts out, which makes sense because it's a 450 watt hour power bank. Now, Bluetti also has an app that connects to the AC50B, and we can have some great control and data at our fingertips with the Bluetooth. And this is available for both iOS and Android, and it sets up really easy. Right from the get-go, something that I do like is that they give the option to either log in with an account or you can work offline, as they put it. To be honest, so many of the other devices I use lately, including drones for instance, require a login to an account to use it. And honestly, this is really irritating because if you're out in nature, as it intends, like you probably will with a power bank or a drone, and you can't connect because there's simply not internet out here, why do I need internet to connect a device that's sitting right next to me? Whoever comes up with the idea that you need internet to connect to a device next to you needs to be fired. Thankfully, the Bluetti does not require logging in, and once you enter the app, you'll notice how intuitive it is. It has the input and out control power displayed, and you can click directly on the numbers here to see more detailed information. You can see the current and the voltage, for instance, and that'll be important in a little bit when we're talking about that hack, so keep that in mind. You can also toggle the AC and DC ports on and off from this home page, and you can display some information about the battery and its status as well. There's also a settings page where you can change the charging modes from turbo to silent and standard mode, which changes how many watts it uses to charge and also increases or decreases the fan, which I'm happy to report is a variable speed fan and not obnoxious at all, which is a huge, huge bonus. Also on this page, we can enable the lifting mode, which is an ingenious hack that Bluetti came up with. And we'll test this in a minute, and seriously, you're not going to want to miss this because it's really impressive, so stick around. Also, there's Eco mode, which is a shutdown after a period of time. This can be set or disabled for both AC and DC outputs, which is a really nice feature. And there's an advanced feature to detect and adjust the grid frequency as well. Now, back to the testing, I want to put the solar panel on here so you can see what that looks like and how it contributes to the inputs. And really, I don't have the best light here today. It's kind of a little bit cloudy, but really it's more smoky than it is cloudy. And it's smoke that's coming from Canadian wildfires right now. So to my colleagues in Canada, take a walk outside and dump your Tim Hortons on the ground and help put those wildfires out, would you? We're dying down here. So now in the app, we can see that there is a 3-watt production coming in from the solar panel. Of course, it's hazy and gray and it's not pointed directly at the sun, but I wanted to show that you can take input power and be discharging at the same time because it can do simultaneous charge and discharge. And lastly, I want to show off the hack that is this power lift mode. By the way, before I forget, if you're enjoying the content so far, don't forget to tap that like button. It really helps us small creators out. So to do this test, I'm going to disconnect the solar input and I'm going to disconnect the DC output so that 100% of our power is going through this AC outlet so we can track it through this watt meter here just to prove there's no funny business going on. So just to confirm, the power lifting mode is off and we're going to turn on a little heater here which should run up the watts pretty fast. And yes, indeed, you can see it's 593 watts, 650 watts, 712 watts. Remember, this is a 700 watt max power station. We're sitting at about 800 watts or so. Let's say you're out in the wild in a tent and it's a bit cold. We turn on the heater and it's working just fine. My feet are going to be so warm and wait, what happened? It just shut off. 840 watts, a heater on low, and now you're going to freeze your toes, right? Well, let's turn on the power lift mode and see the difference. So you've turned on your toe warming heater and you're fearfully waiting for the power to shut off again. It's still running at the same level that kind of kicked us out before, so our toes are nice and toasty warm, but it's still running at the same level that kicked out just moments ago. Now you decide you're going to be a little greedy. You're getting some nice warm toasty toes. You want to brighten up the tent with 2 100-watt incandescent light bulbs. Yes, 200 watts of resistive load. And don't ask me why you want to use 200 watts of light in a tent. It's your tent. And of course, this will surely kick out almost immediately, right? Here comes our 200 watts of light bulb, full up. Our watts are still sitting at 700 watts and it's not kicking out. So now we have our heater on the same wattage we had on before. We have 2 100-watt incandescent light bulbs running and it's still running and not kicking out. What kind of voodoo magic is this? I remember we had the current and the voltage I mentioned before. Well, now if we click on that, you'll notice that the Bluetti adjusted the voltage down to 98.6 volts and increased the amps to 7.1 amps to maintain the lower wattage while still running the devices you have hooked up. Now, this is important that you only do it for resistive loads because other type capacitive loads might have a problem when you drop your voltage down like this. But for most of the things like this that you're going to be running, it works just fine and it really, really is a cool feature. Now, to be fair, everything isn't perfect. There are a few things that I wish Bluetti would have done a little bit differently, and one is that they have this nice flat top up here. You can see we have the DJI Air 3 sitting up here, and it begs to have a charging station for your phone, and it doesn't have one. So we do have to take along a cable just for that, which is unfortunate. And second, I wish there's a built-in light, even if it were a small LED light. Now, this isn't a deal breaker for me, but it would really be nice. Of course, I'll drop links in the description to where you can check out more details. And Blue Yeti was also nice enough to send along discounts for Alien Drones viewers, so thank you, Blue Yeti, for that. And I'll drop one of the discount codes in the description as well, so you can pick up one of these even cheaper if this is something that's up your alley. And it is going to be available on Amazon and on their Blue Yeti site. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. We all want to know. Lastly, here's a couple of videos that you may be interested in as well, so make sure you check those out, and I'll see you soon here.